Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine, and this is your preview show. I'm your host Khalid Moeeden. This is the show where we talk about the Pakistan series and about what the Proteas are going to do heading into the series. So we're going to be talking about everything that we can, talk about the conditions in Rawalpindi, talk about who should be selected, what we are expected, what Mark Boucher said in his press conference. All of those things are going to be spoken about right now on this show. So this is the show that you must share to all of your friends and family right now if you want them to catch up to everything that they need to know about the test series. They're going to know about it today because I'm going to get some two special guests on the show with me. We're going to have Umpo, we're going to have Aditya on the show, and we're going to be talking about the test in depth and really go into a nice discussion about everything that we can expect. South Africa obviously 1-0 down in the series after completely getting dominated in the first test in Karachi. Obviously prepared as best they could for spin. It didn't work out. Some bad batting performances, some good batting performances, some great bowling performances, some bad bowling performances. So all around, it's been quite a crazy series so far. Obviously, a lot of learnings for the Proteas. But let's get into the discussion. And before I get my guests on the show, you know what you have to do. Click that subscribe button, click that notification bell for all future videos. Now, before I get my guests on the show, I just want to talk a little bit about how disappointed we are, obviously, that Australia is not going to be coming here. So I want you guys to know that that is the case. We're going to be playing our last test until we know who's next. It's kind of waiting and hoping for the best to see if South Africa can pull a rabbit out of the hat once again. Please, guys, if you want to get involved with the super chat, I know the chats has been quite hectic recently. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Who do you think should be selected? What do you think the wicket's going to be, especially our friends in Pakistan? What do you think our wickets are going to be like? What the wicket's going to be like in Rawalpindi as well in the second test? And who do you think that South Africa will play to combat that or to make use of those particular conditions? Get involved in the super chat. Let us know. Also become a Patreon today. You can join the community by doing so. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our guests. We've got Aditya and we've got Mpo waiting for us in the back end of the house. Guys, how are you doing? Really great to see your face again, Mpo. I think you do it on purpose. I think you do.
What?
You do that. You do that movement. You do that move that every guy does with a girl. You know, give them some distance and waiting them for them to want more. Then you bounce. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Just excited for tomorrow. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. But an interesting
Yeah.
week in the cricket world nonetheless.
Nonetheless, and Aditya, what's up? How are you doing, brother? How was the press conference? You enjoy what Boucher had to say?
Yeah, he's Boucher is obviously pretty direct, and he's not one to really mince words. So he's pretty honest, forthright, and I guess he offered a lot of clarity as to what to expect in Rawalpindi, as well as the injury status of some key players in the team.
So I'm going to speak a little bit about. I've asked around. I've asked some people in Pakistan to find out some media people over there to find out what they're expecting, what they've heard from the Pakistan camp. Now, the breaking news over here basically is that it's not really breaking news because it's broken over the last couple of hours, but it's breaking news because this is the Daily Show, guys. So it's the first time you're hearing it here. The pitches are a little bit drier than they usually are in Rawalpindi. Normally, it's a very seamer-friendly track. I'm going to play you Boucher's clip to let you hear what he had to say about it. But I'm getting a feeling of more spinner friendly than seamer friendly. I'm thinking that it will aid the seamers in the first couple of maybe the first session or so. It will aid the seamers a little bit, like similarly to Karachi. And then it's going to start turning and obviously help the spinners. So I don't think that South Africa can go without two spinners in this particular match. So let me just play Boucher's talk about the conditions, and then we can go into deep discussion. I would like to hear what Mpo has to say, and Aditya, you too. So this is what Boucher had to say about the wicket so far on his first, obviously looking at it for the first time.
I think if you look at the history of this ground, you would probably say that it's more seamer friendly. That's what we've been reading and looking at the past results as well. When we first got here, was it 3 days ago? There's quite a bit of grass on the wicket. We then got there yesterday and all that grass has been taken off. The surface looks to be very dry. just having a chat around the ground, to a couple of the Pakistan players and coaching staff as well, they don't seem to be too sure how it's actually going to play. There's been a lot of talk in the media about how they're wanting to draw the wicket out, obviously because of the spinning conditions and the way we sort of played in Karachi as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to play. There's a lot of plates on the wicket, so it is certainly very dry, and there's not much grass. Most of the grass is cut off 2 days ago. There's a bit of moisture around. There's a lot of dew early morning. We're probably not going to get full day of play in because it gets very dark early on. So we'll have to wait and see. It's an interesting one. I'm not too sure. If the Pakistan guys are not too sure it's going to play, it's quite difficult for us to make a call on it. We're probably going to have to cover both angles.
And there you have it, guys. Now, Boucher straightforward, saying it how it is. If Pakistan don't know, I think Pakistan do know. I just think they don't. And they're not going to play their hand to Boucher. He's going to have to see on the day. I want to ask you guys, they can change the lineup right before the toss, right? If they look at the conditions in the morning, they can change the lineup. They don't have to, obviously. So just for people's clarity out there, because I've got a lot of questions asking that. They're going to assess the pitch. They're going to look at the conditions, and they'll change their lineup accordingly. Now, I'm assuming over here, and you guys can tell me what your team will be, but I'm assuming over here, especially because of Keshav. Keshav obviously pulled up a little bit. There's been a little bit of discomfort after the training session. So we're not 100% sure if he's going to be fully fit tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a test before the game starts again and see if he's good to go. But I don't think there's any doubt in them playing Shamsi. Shamsi was supposed to play in the first test as well in Karachi, and the only reason because of a stiff back that he pulled out and couldn't play that match. But I think they'll definitely go for Shamsi. Do you think 3 spinners is an option over here, Mpo? I'm going to start with you and then
3 spinners. 3 spinners.
Yeah. Do you think
No.
3 spinners could be an option?
It's a no. Because of the way in which South Africa over the past 18 months have handled the way their bowling attack. I think in the last test, I went back to the Sri Lanka tour, the last tour we had in Asia, where we played 2 spinners outside of the India one. The India one was a little bit of an interesting one because obviously we went spin heavy and we did quite well. But if looking at that, they played in the first test, they played Shamsi and Keshav, and I think Keshav bowled about 25 overs, Shamsi bowled 20 overs in the first innings, and the rest of the bowlers bowled 13, 14, and 8, the quicks. Adding a third spinner could give Quinton a bit of a headache, largely because of the fact that I think to a certain extent, South African cricket of the past year has been used to having your seamers strike early and having a lot of overs of seam, and I think that's where the issue hit the road in the last test, was that I felt they went too seam heavy towards the back end of the Pakistan innings. In the first innings, rather than necessarily giving George Linder and Keshav a lot of overs and telling them not only to contain but to actually look to take wickets. Yes, they weren't turning it as much as a wrist spinner would, but I felt that that shift in mindset needed to be there. The problem was you already had 3 seamers in Kagiso, Lungi, and Anrich that you always kind of felt that you needed to give them something. And I was happy. Look, in the first test, we're going to go with 3 before Shamsi pulled out at the last minute. And that would have been interesting to see how they managed the quicks. But being used to getting your quicks help you take wickets is something that we need to break out of. And I sincerely hope if he does play 3 spinners, that the quicks he picks are accurate and they're fast. And they can play a holding role as well, because that's what you require on a pitch like that. But I think we might see 2, not 3.
Yeah. Aditya, your thoughts from the press conference? You're obviously there. What sort of vibe did you get from Boucher? Are you there? Are you frozen? I think you're frozen. Is he frozen? Yes, he's frozen. Okay, I'm just going to kick you out, Aditya. You can come back and join in again. We'll ask you again. So he spoke a little bit about Shamsi, but I think he's not 100% certain about Shamsi if he's 100% will be able to last the full match. So now we're going to be sitting with a situation where we might only have one spinner available.
So
Then being crap.
And that was the problem that he was talking about. Obviously, Shamsi's got a back issue, and you can pull up at any time in the test. And that was his worries that sometime throughout the test, he might just wake up one morning and his back is very sore. And obviously that's no fault of his own. Of Shamsi's, I think these things do happen. Injuries do happen a lot, and so it's just very tough to pick an 11 when you've got all these injuries around, especially now with Keshav pulling up. That was the surprise for me. That I was just like, oh, okay, so then we're looking like we're going to play one spinner and four seamers, and we're going to try and make the best of it.
Yeah, Aditya, what sort of vibe did you get from Boucher with regards to the team lineup?
I think he's playing the waiting game, and he's probably going to take it to like 10 minutes before the toss, because they want to make sure that they give, that Shamsi or whether it's Keshav as much of an opportunity as they can to ensure that they're ready. Because one thing is for sure, Boucher doesn't want the team to be one bowler short. I think that's a recipe for disaster. Going into the test series, I think if something happens mid-series and it's a freakish injury, that's fine. But I think going into a test knowing that this guy is not 100% is probably not the wisest thing to do in his opinion. But I do think he's also taking Vian Mulder as an option pretty seriously. And we discussed this yesterday, I think, that perhaps Vian Mulder should be given a look in for this test match. So I guess everything's on the table right now.
Yeah, for me, even if they do pick George Linder, I would still go for Vian Mulder. That will be my decision for Lungi. That's the change I'll make.
So the thing that Vian Mulder brings to the team is obviously the batting, but he also gives the ability
consistency
but it's also because he's very accurate, but he allows you to play two spinners with three seamers. He is effectively your de facto third seamer if everything falls apart, similar to what Fahim Ashraf does for Pakistan. Pakistan played two seamers.
You can hold it in.
Seamers. Exactly, and to a certain extent, that's the balance of the side that was off in the first test. I felt that if Tabrez was out, Lungi should have sat out and Vian should have played, because he gave you that extra batting, and you would have batted down to probably number 9 with Keshav batting at 9. And those are the things that I think maybe they missed a trick with that in the first test. But I do think Vian needs to play in even if, regardless of in the space of Lungi in the side. The question of whether Tabrez comes in or whether if it's I think you as a South African team touring in Asia, you kind of have to stick with two spinners at the max. So the last time we played 3 spinners was against India, and they scored 500 in the first innings, and we got bowled out. And Keshav bowled 50 overs. Dane Pete bowled 19, Senaran Mutusami bowled 15, and Kagiso and Vern were just struggling there in the mid-20s, and that's what happened. It was that first test against India. So I think we have to look at the past and see what it does. I just feel as though we're not sure, and I think the things the certainties in the side are Kagiso and Anut Nokia. Those are the certainties, I think, that you can pin down. Which of the spinners will play? I think it'll end up being 2. It depends, but I felt in Mark Boucher's press conference that he loved Vian, and I think he wanted to give Vian an opportunity, especially with he spoke about the cracks in the pitch and the pitch feeling platy, which requires a more accurate type of seam bowler, which then plays into where Vian is, and I think he gave everyone an answer there as to he's probably in.
It takes incredible skill to look at a pitch, to identify where the cracks are, to identify where the problem areas are, and to put the ball there consistently. And Vian did that excellently in the previous test against Sri Lanka, and that's what I was hopeful for. I was hopeful to see an improvement. I had a chat today with I went to Cubs Week, so in Stellenbosch, and I just wanted to check some of the young talent out, etc. And I had a chat with Vinnie Barnes, and we spoke about the Proteas and Vian Mulder, and I mentioned to him that this is something that I've seen in Vian Mulder's game, and he spoke about it too. He agreed with me, and he said, yes, that's something that Vian has really improved, is that consistency and accuracy in his game, which is something that he needed to add to his game, because he doesn't have the pace to be able to rival guys like Andrich and KG. He needs to accept it as a youngster. Just accept that, look, I'm not going to get to 145, 150. I need to learn the best skill that I can possibly play to be able to do so, to be able to bowl consistently and get my skill level up with the pace that I'm at. Whereas some bowlers try and get there, even though they will never get there, they still try. They change their action, they change their stance, they maybe change the way they run up to the crease, they maybe change the way their foot lands, etc., to try and get the best speed out of themselves when they can't, and they still hit the same pace. So that's all things that we must think about. When Vian is a young age, it can cause injuries as well, changing your stance completely like that and pushing your body to the limit. So Vian, very smart move, I feel, and he's learned that at a young age to be able to adapt his game and play the best possible way that he can play. Aditya, let's move into the batting side of things, because I think that Boucher specifically spoke about patience. It's something that we've been speaking about on this channel for so long, that youngsters must learn this patience and persistence at the crease in the longer formats. What did he speak about with regard to the batting performance in Karachi? Because if this is gonna spin at all, or it's gonna be anything similar to Karachi with regards to the pitch conditions. We're talking about now the weather conditions. We know that Rawalpindi is a little bit cooler, more moisture in the mornings probably. So with regards to the batting and the approach, what did Boucher have to say about our batting? Because that's what everybody really wants to hear.
So he was quite upfront about what the team needed to do, and he said that the boys learned quite a lot from watching the Pakistanis bat and see how they went about their first innings. And he said he found that even though the Proteas scored 245 in the second innings, he said there was still a marked improvement in how they played spin. So ultimately, it was that cluster of wickets at the end of day 3 that really put the Proteas on the back foot. But he's optimistic about the batting in the second test match, and I think that the key words there are mental application. He said they just need to get stuck in and score big. It's as simple as that. And they need to make sure that they understand that they can't possibly score at the run rate that they typically do in South Africa. So I'm glad he put that out there for sure, because we've been talking a lot on the show about this emphasis on run rate and pushing the game forward. And sometimes that's counterproductive.
I think, and I'm with you with Aditya on that one. I think we've been so focusing on run rate and trying to push the game forward, whereas we're forgetting that games are finishing early day 4, late day 3. You have so much time, and this is what Graham Smith mastered so much as a captain, was that he understood the value that time had in the game, and his teams would drag things out and take and play with that as an advantage rather than a disadvantage. There's no need to rush. There's no need to panic. It's just building runs. The best way to get yourself into form is to give yourself as much time in the middle as possible. It will get easier the more you stay in. That's the nature of this game. Bowlers are human. They will tire out. They will make mistakes. They'll go back. They'll go from plan A to plan B to plan C to plan D. The moment they're in plan D, it's easy for you to bat. They'll go back to plan A. You'll still make sure you'll still get runs, and that's what I want to see tomorrow. I obviously want to win the toss, bat first. If we don't bat first, we'll make the most of it. But even when we do get a chance to bat, it's about applying yourself. Stay there for an hour. I think every batsman, I think the one message should be, I want you to stay out there for 3 hours. Minimum 3 hours. Try and bat your way into this game. Dig a hole rather than necessarily wanting to get yourself out. And I think that's something because the batsmen are talented. It's not like we're fielding scrubs out there. We're fielding one of South Africa's finest batsmen. You know, they're very talented. They have the ability to do that. It's just you need to give yourself time. It's about patience.
That's why I love Test cricket so much, because the mental game is so important. If you won the toss and you opted to bat first, right? The whole point over here is to tire the crap out of the opposition, make them frustrated, they must try to throw their best balls at you and frustrate the crap out of them. The way India does that to teams, India will emotionally drain you, mentally drain you, physically drain you. They will just irritate the crap out of you when you're out in the middle. South Africa needs to learn how to do that. They learned it in the second innings. It's a pity that they didn't try that in the first innings. Dean Alga was on the road, was with that mindset. I mean, Dean Alga understands that, and it frustrates me that he must be speaking up. He must be saying to the rest of them, "Look here, guys, this pitch, I don't care if you score at a strike rate at 85, 90 normally in Test cricket. I don't care. I want you to bat at a strike rate here of 35, 40. Slow things down, bat with me, go through the trenches." Because, I mean, if we can survive that morning session of the seamers, I think things will get a little bit easier when runs is concerned. We don't need to be scared about the spinners coming on when the pitch is a little bit still moist. Force them to bring on their spinners earlier so that we can nudge it around, take a few singles, play the long game, look for the gaps, leave balls that you don't have to hit at. If it's pitching outside leg and coming into you, pad it. You're not going to go out LBW. It will be, you review it will be overturned. If it's spinning across you, if it's passing past your body, if a left arm is coming across you and the ball's moving across your body, leave the ball. Leave the bloody ball. Please just leave it. That's all I'm saying. So, like, you don't have to have bat on ball in every single scenario, in every single situation. Yeah. Aditya, please add to that.
In previous shows, I mentioned Rahul Dravid's email to Kevin Peterson. Please just read that email. I promise you, it worked wonders for Kevin Peterson, and he smashed us in Mumbai on a rank turner. That email is gold. But besides that, I think, or if they're playing on a rank turner, essentially, the idea is what Indian batsmen are typically taught is that on the leg side, if it's out of your eye line, don't worry about it. And if it's on the off side, just aim to play as late as possible. And don't really give spinners too much importance. You know, I've never heard Sachin Tendulkar at a press conference worrying about Shane Warne coming in. His only mindset is, how am I going to smash him? You know, and he did that throughout his career. So sometimes I feel like a lot of the talk about overseas teams countering spin in the subcontinent is, I wouldn't say is exaggerated. It is a concern, but sometimes I think they're overawed by it. And teams just need to relax a little bit, because when you nick a ball off a fast bowler bowling at 145, no one really says, "Oh, you have a problem facing fast bowling." But if a spinner gets you out, suddenly there are all these mental games being played along that, you know, you can't face spin. You have all these technical problems. No one really says these things when you're facing fast bowling. So I suppose it's a mental thing. You gotta shut the noise out.
Mpo, I want to ask you a question. Because we're asking now certain batsmen obviously to change the way they play. I think not all of them. Dean, I think, can do this. Aiden showed that he can. Rassi's natural game. Faf can do it if he really puts his mind to it, obviously. Temba can do it. What would your message be to Quinton de Kock in the form that he's in right now? Do you play your natural game or do you take your time? What do you do with Quinton de Kock?
I think Quinton's one of those players who is best suited to play their natural game. I think I'm yet to see a Quinton innings where that rivals the 25 run, 150 ball, 60 ball stand that AB de Villiers had with Faf du Plessis in Adelaide. You know, I know he has it in his locker, but from a mindset perspective, Quinton does need to play the ball. He's probably the most of the top six. He's the guy with the best natural instincts when it comes to when it comes to batting, and I back him a lot. I think if he sees the balls in his arc or in his area, he knows how to manipulate the field to get it going. And to a certain extent, I want him. That natural aspect of his game is what has made him such a great asset to South Africa, batting so late in the innings because of the fact that he can. It's a counter punch. And that's what it made so well with him batting with Temba, is that whenever Quinton came in and we're always in trouble, he would always punch back, fight back, and he'd put the pressure back onto the bowler. He's the one guy who does that. And I also think his mindset is like Aditya. He doesn't mind. He doesn't care about whether a spinner's best good or not. He plays what he sees. And if you look at the way he went out in that second innings, lunging forward, trying to see if he could get the bat, it felt uncomfortable. To a guy like Quinton, who is a lot more free, a lot more natural. Defense is there, but it's not front of mind, and for him it's not something that should be front of mind. He reminds me of a Bazza McCallum who, he was having there's a documentary flying around with him and Kane showing him his defense, and Barry and Brendan's like, dude, nah, I didn't do it like this. I never had such a strong defense like but Brendan McCallum was destructive. And I don't want him to lose that destructive mentality. Yeah. Yes, it can be reckless at times, but it's for Quinton, it's a form thing. If he's on form and his mind is clear, he can do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. And I think with this being his last test as captain, this could actually free him up to do things. He doesn't have to think about the future. He doesn't have to think long term. He's coming home after these next 5 days, so why not punish the ball and punish the Pakistani bowlers as well? So I think tomorrow, this test, you might see a very different Quinny, a very dangerous Quinny compared to what you've seen throughout the season.
So I've got a message for you, Quinton de Kock. I'm going to tell you a little saying from the great Muhammad Ali: float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Get that skipping rope out before you go for your innings. Get a few skips in, and let's use your feet in this game. Play your natural game. Look for that sweep shots where you can. Move down the track to the bounce of the ball. Put it into the gaps. Keep a rotation going. Look for the fence. Play the ball on the ground. Just play your natural game. Your natural game will suit this particular conditions, I feel, especially by the time you come in. If the Proteas can stick to their game plan, be patient at the top of the order against the seamers in the moisture, and can see their time with the spinners, knock the spinners around, frustrate them, you'll have a platform to come out and play your natural game. You need it. It's probably going to be your last test as captain as well. So put on a show and show people and prove them wrong. Aditya, was there anything that Boucher said in his press conference about Quinton de Kock? Because that must have been a question that came up.
Definitely. He did say that it hasn't been easy. And at first he said that he wasn't forced to become captain. He chose to do it this season because the way the question was framed was that he was forced to become captain. So Boucher clarified that first, and then from then on, he says that it's been tough on Quinny, and it gets highlighted when you're captain and you're not really scoring runs. So he wanted to really sort of relieve him of the captaincy and get Quinton the batsman back, because it was quite clearly weighing on him. He also clarified that South Africa's defeat in the last test match wasn't really Quinton's fault. If the team really doesn't perform the way that they should be, particularly the batting department, there's not much that he can do about it. So I think he was quite sympathetic to his predicament. But I guess good news for Quinton de Kock. I'm sure he's looking forward to coming back on soon.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're going to see the best of Quinton de Kock. He's my player to watch for this particular series. I had to put him in there. Can I ask you guys, who's your players to watch from both sides? Let's start with Paul.
Whoever the spinners will be for South Africa. that's the one thing. But I think more seriously, from a top four perspective, I'd like to see how Rassie and Aiden are the ones I'm going to be watching. I've seen enough of Faf already, but for me, it's how Rassie and Aiden take the learnings from Karachi and apply them here. I think that's going to be very important for South Africa to win. If they can bat the way they did apply themselves. You could see they were thinking as the bowlers were bowling. If they can do that, South Africa stand a chance. And so I think that's more important for me. I think getting the 20 wickets is going to be fascinating, especially as to which spinners. I'd like not to have the spin twin of Keshav and George Linder again. But if that's going to be the case, then we can't, obviously beggars can't be choosers. So I do hope that Tabrez does get a game and shows the world what I've always believed he has. I think South Africa over the years have not been able to use a wrist spinner to full effect, or even have an attacking spinner, because that's the one critique I've always had on Graham Smith, is that I think the use of an attacking spinner was something that went over his head, and it was sad. But yeah.
You remember, you'd think that after when Paul Harris used to bowl, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but after every single ball, you'd jump, you'll go, oh. Did you see that? Did you see that? It was
the worst thing ever. You're like, dude, it went straight on. Come on.
Oh, it was great. I loved it. It just gave that I don't know. It just pushed extra pressure on the guys, I guess, and that's why he took so many wickets actually as a spinner. It was remarkable.
But you also got to say something to Graham to be like, dude, you had Imran Tahir, and you could only use him for 2 series. That's all you could do. That's something that hurts me. But yeah.
So Aditya, from your perspective, who's going to be the players to watch from Pakistan and from South Africa?
Okay, from South Africa, I'd like to see Aiden carry on where he left off. I'd like to see Rassi make his first Test 100. We're hoping for 250 from Faf. And
I love it.
And I actually think this, despite all the mind games being played and grass being taken off the pitch and all of that, I actually feel like the seamers are going to play a big role on this pitch. So I think KG and Andrik and Vian are going to be incredibly important, and I think they're going to take the bulk of the wickets for South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan can Babar Azam, he's come back from injury, but it looks like he may come good in this Test match. Very good player. Fawad Alam, a gritty man. And I hope, for South Africa's sake, I hope he doesn't get stuck in there. And of course, Azhar Ali is a key batsman for them as well. Bowling point of view, I'm going to say it's Shaheen and Yasir. I don't know if they'll play nominally in this Test match, but I do think Yasir and Shaheen will be key factors.
Yeah, I must say I'm a massive fan of Babar Azam. Like a massive fan of him. I love the way he bats. Look here, like my thing is, if this pitch is going to be more like a Rawalpindi pitch that we expect with a little bit more in it for the seamers, I think South Africa will have the upper hand. If it's going to be a dry, bouncy deck, I'm talking about because they're saying it's going to be a dry deck. It could be a dry, low pitch. But if it's a dry, bouncy pitch, I think South Africa has the upper hand there, because Pakistan doesn't really have big, tall guys in their lineup, in their batting lineup. If you pepper them with a lot of short deliveries, you could really maybe get some good purchase on the wicket, and you can obviously get some quick wickets, easy, cheap wickets from them, because they're obviously going to look for that pull shot. They might get a top edge. You can get lucky like that. Then I think South Africa have the upper hand. But if it's going to play more like Karachi, then I think that Pakistan have the upper hand, and South Africa's going to have to fight for a victory, properly fight for a victory. When I know we're talking about this fighting spirit, and nobody likes to hear, Lubabali doesn't like to hear this whole fighters spirit about South Africa and all of these things that we fighters. But we're going to have to put in a proper grind to win this test. So that's what we have about the test match. I just want to play what Boucher had to say about Australia, just to end things off. He spoke about Australia, and he also spoke about the T20 squad and what's going to happen over there with regards to personnel in the staff as well as the team. So this is what Boucher had to say about Australia and that few things.
No, I wouldn't say disruption. I think we're very focused on what the job at hand is in Pakistan. I think it's disappointing. It's certainly disappointing. I think CSA has expressed their disappointment as well, and it's no different for the players. We had sort of made a lot of plans. I know that there was a lot of planning going into the Australian tour back home. We haven't really been a part of that, but I mean, it seems to be, that a lot of goalposts were being moved for that particular tour for Australia. For example, the one positive that came out of the bubble against Sri Lanka was the hotel that we stayed at. We thought it was a great hotel for us as South Africans. It sort of suits our needs and our sort of cultural way that we are being outdoors. And we even surrendered that to Australia. So, there's probably a feeling that we are laying down the red carpet a bit for Australia, which is frustrating at times. So, yeah, after all of that, having a look at where it is now and having been postponed, very disappointing and I suppose disruptive with regards to our plans going forward, but certainly won't hamper us in this next test match. I think the focus is on trying to level this test series. Okay, so we won't be keeping any test players. It's bubbles intermingling, and it's just literally it probably won't happen. Well, it's not going to happen. The management, as far as I know, myself, Langers, Sipakazi will be staying over and looking after that T20 squad that will be coming over. I think they've already actually arrived. So, it's not ideal. There's been a lot of planning that's gone into the 2 tours and also going back and quarantining for Australia. So the planning is all there. We were told right at at a very late moment that this is going to happen or wasn't going to happen. It's difficult for us to all of a sudden turn around and start changing plans up when there's a T20 around the corner. So we're going to keep the players as per is, and 1 or 2 of our management will continue to stay on here and join the T20 squad.
I'm slightly disappointed about that because I really want to see Enoch take on charge of that T20 side and see what he has to do. But Paul, you didn't have your chance to have a go at Australia, so red carpet is rolled out for you.
No, guys, I think look, you've had your say with it. Like, it's disappointing. I think they have to take care of their players, but I kind of felt they never wanted to come in the first place. Also, coming back into Australia, you need to quarantine for 2 weeks, so it has to be worth it for the players. I thought the World Test Championship was worth it for them, and it's all and this is all about this whole South African variant, which isn't a South African variant. It's SARS-CoV-2 version 2. That's what it is. It's version 2 of the coronavirus. It's not a South African variant, and all these rumors swirling around that it's a South African variant. Well, yes, we've gone through the curve, but the work that went in from CSA's perspective was immense. And you can look at the way they've handled the bubbles. The first bubble with England and the drama with England was all England's fault. So that well documented. So it's really bad. But it's also interesting to see that Pakistan didn't play in the West Indies last year. They didn't go to Bangladesh. They didn't come to Zimbabwe. They only went to England and they played India at home. So they're only willing to go to places where they know there's a perception that they'll be safe. But England's running away with the virus. I don't even think that World Test Championship final will be viable at Lords if without England's vaccination rollout working as well as people hope for, because it's in June and that final should be there. So it's going to pose a lot of problems, going to open up a whole lot of things. Don't be surprised if the World Test Championship final gets played in the UAE. But from my perspective, it's really disappointing, and it also goes into the fears that obviously Africans and we do things backwards and all of those things. So they've always had a bad perception of our country. It's just fed into their sport, and so that's fine. That's okay. Look, it's fine. It's bad from a South African perspective, but if there's nothing more you can do. It's now up to CSA to think of creative ways to try and keep the broadcast revenue that they will have lost. Yes, international cricket is high up, but maybe if you can create tournaments with this current crop of Proteas and do something with them in this intervening winter period to at least keep revenue going.
Aditya?
Well, as we discussed yesterday, it wasn't particularly surprising for me that Australia chose not to come, and it was again incredibly disappointing after all the measures that CSA had taken. But again, as I said yesterday, I don't think the Aussies were particularly concerned about COVID or the biosecurity arrangements. I think it was mainly about the logistical challenges that they would have to face from their government. See, I think it was just yesterday, day before yesterday, that one security guard outside a quarantine hotel in Perth was tested positive for COVID, and the entire city went into lockdown for a week. So you can imagine what how stringent their regulations are.
Yes.
With that said,
I mean, you can see. Try to take a carrot into Australia, you'll see.
No, but it's serious. Like even with the Australian Open, like a lot of people were saying that they don't want it to happen because you're bringing these players in, even though they're quarantining for 2 weeks. People who lived in the flats in the quarantine hotels, so like the flats above the hotels, it's fascinating, refused to take some of the players.
Mm-hmm. So Aditya, you spot on again. I love your analysis. Mpo, same with you. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody. We had a lot of viewers on the show today. Please press that subscribe button. I know that a lot of you aren't doing that. I even made a nice fancy subscribe button for you. So it's the bottom right. You can just click on subscribe over there for us, and you can join the community. Don't forget to join the Patreon as well. You can pick a tier that suits you. Join the community. Join our fan base. You can become a part of this community. This channel is yours as the fans too. Not mine, not Mpo's, not Aditya's, not everybody else's. It's all of yours. So we are family. We want to grow a family over here. So please do that too. Don't forget to obviously like, comment, share, subscribe, because the like button will get the algorithms to do their things, and we will be recommended in so many other feeds as well on YouTube. So please go ahead and smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the magazine. Links on the screen in the description. If you guys have a business, small business, big business, and you're looking to make sales online, even if your business is offline, we have a free tutorial on this channel. Or just email us at cricketfanaticsmag@gmail.com. Here's it on the screen, and you can get in touch with one of us, and we will try to help promote your business and grow your brand through Cricket Fanatics Magazine's platform. Thanks a lot to Aditya. Thanks a lot to Mpo for coming on the show, and we'll see you again tomorrow with a review show. Take care, everybody, and enjoy the cricket. Cheers.